This is the opensource.club, a free St. Louis-focused knowledge share podcast. Through industry experts, entrepreneurs, personal stories, and more, we provide the information you need to achieve and thrive. Always visit our website, theopensource.club, for more details. Contact us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. This is your host, Dick Hewlett. St. Louis has a rich history when it comes to concerts. We've seen some amazing performers, and today we kind of go behind the scenes to talk to a local concert promoter, James Witherspoon of Witherspoon Entertainment, LLC, a minority-owned business commonly known as Breakaway Productions. You know, it's hard to believe that Breakaway Productions has been producing events and shows in the area for 40 years. Is that right? James, welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, we started back in 82 as a, event presentators, if you will. Started with, much like a social club type of beginnings with hosting of various types of events, from skating parties, swim parties, happy hours, theme party, club parties, and we just stayed with it, and here I am, 40 years later, living my dream, I guess, and concert promoting has always been my first love after a while, and here I am.
Well, how did you know when you finally made it? I mean, you start off small, but when do you say, hey, you know what, this is working?
When you put your money out. When you put your money on the table and you receive rewards in regards to people attending your events. And it's a desire, it's a dream, and you put a plan together to say, this is what I would like to do one day, and you follow the steps to get there, and you start living your dream, or you start taking those chances, and you start producing events, and then they become successful, and you stay with it.
What's different between the type of events you did when you started out to what you're doing now? At some point, it has to change dramatically, right?
You're doing bigger things. You know, when we started out back in the day, we did hotel parties. You know, we'd rent a hotel room and put a band in there and a DJ, and tell people to dress up and come on by and at that time buy a $5 or $10 ticket. Now you tell them to dress up, come on by, and the tickets are $25, $35, $45, $65. And you're talking about local entertainment then versus national entertainment now, and some of the more desired concert venues in St. Louis. And it's a fun and it's a risk factor, and if you like it and you are financially successful at it, you stay with it.
Gotcha. You know, I'm an old radio guy, and I know over the years I've learned that the concert business it's a tough business. How do you get connected in something like that?
Well, I was very fortunate back in the day. I spent 13 years with Regal Sports, who at the time was, they were the big boys on the block as far as producers in the St. Louis metropolitan and somewhat regionally. And during the early parts of my career, I was able to spend, like I said, 13 years sitting behind the desk with Mr. Massey, Mr. Agnew, learning skills and the right way to do it, the old school way. And those ideas, concepts have stayed with me. And when you have a good foundation, good things learn to happen. You know, you take your time, you cross your I's, dot your T's, you do the things that you're supposed to do in presenting an event, and if you are successful at it, it'll show.
So it's sort of like you learn the right and the wrong things to do, right?
Well, yes, it is. You know, you don't want to take shortcuts, because if you can't promote and produce your event, you won't have an event. There are certain guidelines that you follow that if you just follow them, you at least have a shot at making the event happen. You can't make people show up, but you want to get them so excited about the event that they hope that they do and they want to.
Well, what kind of groups are you bring to town? I mean, how do you know it's going to work? Or who have you brought to town that you say, hey, this is going to work?
Well, like I said, I'm very fortunate over the last year or two that I've been able to go get artists that I thought had it. To date, probably one of the biggest artists I ever wanted to do was Will Downing. And we just had him on Valentine's Day. I had to work 6 months ahead of time to get that date. the guy was in such demand, but I knew I had a shot at him. I called the agency and said, hey, I want this guy on this date. They said, okay, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars, and we're going to need half of it up front. And, the money sat there for 8 months, but I did it, And what it is, you do your marketing. You figure who appeals to what market, what kind of draw they might have, and you put a marketing plan around them, and you put it out there. And I've done Will Downing, did the Shylight, Stylistics. On the jazz side, I did Marion Meadows, Pieces of a Dream. Currently, those are the people that, I kind of went after, and they work. You just do your marketing homework of who has draw at the market you're trying to direct, and, you take your chances.
Mm-hmm.
You go out there, you put it together and say, hey, this guy should work based on, his appeal. And you put a marketing strategy around the event, and you put it out there.
Some smarts, is what you're saying.
I would like to think so. Some days I'm not that smart.
All right. Well, I have to ask you. You have a favorite group that you brought to town? Who's your favorite when you think back?
Two people.
Mm-hmm.
Will Downing, because when I first met Will, he did the first Magic 108 Grand Slam Anniversary Jam at the then Stouffer's Hotel. Mm-hmm. You know how long that's been.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
and he did the first. He was one of the first guys that they had, and he did a track. And I had found out about the guy a few months earlier, and I knew there was something about him as far as his voice and everything, that he was going to be big down the road. And here it is 20 years later, I brought him in. So that was good. The second one was Pieces of a Dream. I met those guys years ago when they first did Cool City Jam in the park with Pieces of a Dream and Phyllis Hyman. And she has always been one of my favorite female artists in Pieces of a Dream. They are the American jazz story. These guys started out in high school and stayed with it. Discovered and picked up by Grover Washington, and 40 years later, they're still at it.
And nice guys, too.
Oh, man, I have had some good experiences with them, and there was a group I always wanted to bring, and I was able to bring them last year. So those two people so far have been the people that I, have had the honor of bringing. There's a couple more that I want to get, but those two in my past, how I can put them on my checklist.
James Witherspoon from Breakaway Productions is our guest. So you have arrived. What's in the future for Breakaway?
Well, again, really just to keep producing contemporary concerts, with jazz artists, which is my first love, and R&B old school artists. A few comedians I'd like to do. And my ultimate goal, St. Louis, I would like to do a jazz festival here. That is produced from here. I think that would be great. All the other cities kind of have one. St. Louis needs to be added to their list, but it needs to be produced from here, and I want to be that guy.
Gotcha. Well, you work with cities, you work with major corporations. What's one of the main concerns that everybody has?
Well, the main concern is, can you deliver? Can you get that word out there? Can your product or service be put up front? And the answer is yes. If you understand marketing, and if you have the wherewithal to put a plan together that makes sense, and you have a plan on execution, it's all right there. Follow the dots, as they say. And success could be inevitable.
What an exciting business. Are you happy with yourself where you are and everything?
I am ecstatic. When you hear about stories about people living their dream, I can now add my name to the list. As a young adult, starting off years ago as a little, basement band guy, and then you move from a basement band guy to a DJ guy, and then you move from a DJ to an entertainment guy, and 20, 30 years later, you're at the top of the mountain where you wanted to be, and that is, your name, your stamp on concert events. And I've come full circle to reach that point. So I am ecstatic, as they say, living the American dream.
You got it. It's been a pleasure talking to you. James Witherspoon from Breakaway Productions. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can actually call me, 314-496-7751, or just pop my name up, James A. Witherspoon, up on Facebook, and you'll see my picture along with one of the groups I represent, the Coleman Hughes Project, and you can access me there. And if you have something you'd like to discuss, I am more than willing.
Thank you so much, James. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. You guys have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the OpenSource.Club podcast. Become a subscriber through RSS or YouTube. There's more to come that you won't want to miss. Our name is our web address, theopensource.club.